All right, so today I want to talk about this tweet from Thomas Sowell, or it's actually a quote from him, but he goes on to say, one of the most remarkable feats of those with the vision of the anointed has been the maintenance of their reputations in the face of repeated predictions that proved to be wrong by miles. Now, this is obviously a quote that was made by him before this whole virus situation that's been going on. But why I wanted to talk about it is that it's very significant in times like this that we have had quote unquote experts that literally, uh, if you would have taken the opposite of their advice when we first got into this mess, you would have been much better off. But like I say, it begs the question is that how can these people maintain their reputations, let alone their jobs, uh, even though they were completely wrong? And like I say, the opposite of what these people thought to be right was what turned out to be, or the opposite of what they suggested turned out to be the suggestion we should have went with. And like I say, take Tam and Haidu in Canada. Like these are our public health ministers and our top doctors and all these kind of people that suggested what 2.5 months ago. Oh, borders don't work. Masks don't work. Don't wear masks. Now all of a sudden it's uh, borders do work. We're going to force you to stay in your house, which is, secured by borders. We're going to force people to maintain this stupid 6 feet distance border. We're going to have, kind of borders in masks. Like I say, um, how can these people maintain their reputations, let alone their jobs? They should have been fired long ago, but like they're completely wrong. Like someone like me who has no expertise whatsoever was more right on something where they're supposed to be experts in. And again, I don't care about people's credentials. I could not care less about people's credentials. What I care about is did you make good predictions? If you make good predictions, which if you're an expert you should be able to do with ease, then I'll respect your credentials. If you get things wrong by miles, like he says, I could not care less, because if someone who has no idea whatsoever what they're talking about when it comes to investing makes better investment advice or investments than the world's foremost leading experts, Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, take your pick. Would you respect Warren Buffett or Ray Dalio as much anymore? Well, of course not, because some idiot with no idea what they're talking about did a better job than him. And let's just say that it happened over decades, not just one lucky, prediction. Bitcoin at $100 or something like that. Um, Take a nutritionist too. Like if a nutritionist can, like if a nutritionist is still maintaining the ooh, fat is gonna kill you, don't eat too much sodium, all the stuff that's been long debunked. Like again, people have no credibility whatsoever if they get things wrong by miles. So I wanted to stress that. And like I say, this is so important because we still have so many people. Now, most of the people watching this, probably 95% of the people watching this, agree with me, or at least largely agree with me. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir to an extent, but I still want to get the argument and the point across that the way that we're going to improve as a society is finally start to learn the value of questioning the narrative too. The only way we improve as a society is to question the narrative, right? Like, why are we where we are in the first place? Or sorry, why are we so well off today? Compared to 100 or 1,000 years ago. Well, guess what? It's because someone said, hey, maybe we can come up with a better way of getting transportation than riding a horse or walking. And then guess what? The car was invented. And maybe someone say, hey, maybe there's a better way to get places faster than walking or driving or going on a boat. And then guess what? Planes are invented. Maybe there's a better way of communicating than writing letters. And well, guess what? Email was invented. Phones were invented. So and why it came about was someone said, "Hey, there's got to be a better way of doing this." And that's what exactly the guy who invented email, Dr. Shiva, he said that. Like, there's got to be a better way of this stupid paper communication way, the way we do things. And guess what? Well, guess what? He invented email. So that's how we make improvements into society. And I don't understand why people insist on keeping things so stagnant and just where they're at. Like I really don't understand it. Like we could be so much more advanced than we currently are. Uh, but yet, we have so many people that are just completely ignorant of reality. So basically, the main point here being is that it's like you say too. How can these people maintain um, their credentials and their job when they get things completely wrong too? And don't, like I said, I cannot stand this stupid, oh, you're not a doctor. What do you? Who cares what you think? Uh, but it turns out that, hey, if I was a doctor and I recommended someone medication that they were allergic to, and I didn't even bother to ask them if they're allergic to anything, and they die, and I get sued, I don't get to make the, oh, you're not a doctor, you don't get to question me argument. You don't get to do that. If a financial advisor, embezzles money from you and makes terrible investment advice, and you sue him for it, he doesn't get to say, oh, well, you're not an investment or a financial advisor, you don't get to question me and just dismiss the lawsuit. That's not how it works. So anybody trying to make this whole, you're not a doctor or you're not a climate scientist, I couldn't care less, because unless you're willing to say that you shouldn't be able to sue your financial advisor if they steal money from you and make pitiful, terrible investment advice, or sue your doctor for making medical advice that hurts you, unless you're willing to argue that, I don't care about your stupid, oh, you're not a doctor, you don't get to question me argument. Uh, and here's the thing, too, is that I wouldn't question them if they actually got things right, if they actually cared about things. The problem is that they got things completely wrong. Notice I'm not questioning the people who got things right. I'm only questioning the people who got things wrong. And not only did they get things wrong, they got things wrong by leaps and bounds. Like I say, I did a better job of predicting things than they did. I would have made better suggestions. I have no formal education when it comes to this kind of stuff, but yet, like I say, I would have closed the borders. I would have suggested people wear masks. I think the idea that people are forced to do it is absolutely asinine, because there is downsides to wearing masks as well. Um, but like I say, I would have closed the borders, and I would have closed off nursing homes, all this kind of stuff. And we would have been able to keep things going, and on the other hand, we would have mitigated the spread. I think that we could have, if we would have did those things, we could have had less infections, less dead, and kept the economy going. It would have been a win-win. But yet, no, we have to fall into these stupid, stupid idiots that still fall for they just keep drinking the Kool-Aid of, oh, well, just keep things going longer. The government can just turn things on and off at a whim and at the flip of a switch. And it's just a crazy idea. I mean, the reason why a lot of these leftists believe that is that in their minds, the government should provide everything in people's lives. They should provide healthcare, schooling, housing, UBI, everything. Uh, and because they believe that, they think that, oh, well, we can just keep things locked down until further notice. Maybe if it's years or a decade, who cares? Because they justify it in their mind, because they think the government can just give everybody enough money to get by. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So basically, like I say, to sum it up, people who do this kind of stuff, like most of these climate scientists, should be fired. They've been getting things wrong for literally decades, and yet not only do they not get fired, they get pay raises. The government completely botched this entire situation. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. I mean, even the provincial government in Alberta too. Like I always mention that too, for so people can't make the stupid, oh, you're just biased against Trudeau argument. uh, yeah, they should get pay cuts too. They should get some sort of, I don't know, direct punishment, but I mean a pay cut is a punishment. The provincial governments that screwed this up. Yeah, they deserve to lose out, because as a citizenry we are losing out. I mean, at least the people who don't want socialism. Um, we're losing out. We're losing money. We're A lot of people are falling into depression. A lot of people are falling into drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Kids and spouses are getting abused. But the government, they gave themselves a pay raise. They're laughing. And the last thing I wanted to point out too is the mainstream media. And this is the problem too, that most of these people who support this kind of stuff, whether it's climate change, whether it's keeping things locked down, whatever it is, the mainstream media cannot possibly give you an honest and objective opinion when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you why. The mainstream media's ratings during this whole crisis pandemic, I don't believe it's a crisis nor a pandemic, whatever you want to call it, have gone up. I mean, you look at CNN's ratings, they've gone up by quite a bit. I know for a fact. I would guess CBC's went up as well, given CTV's, all the Canadian outlets, given that if the American ones are way up, the Canadian ones should be too. There's no reason, most people are at home, so why not? So the better the more people watching, the better their ratings, the more money they get. So if they're benefiting financially from one point of view, or sorry, just pointing out one side of the argument, then how can they possibly be objective when it comes to this kind of stuff? Like I say, it's the same thing with climate scientists too. They benefit financially off the idea of climate change being this big, huge issue that we're all going to die from it. They benefit financially because the more the bigger of an issue that they claim it is, and the more quote unquote research they have to back up their claims, the more money the government's going to give them. It's a basic scientific fact, or sorry, a basic fact in the scientific field, that the more studies and research you have to back up a claim, the more likely you are to get more money to fund it. Like I say, there's not a lot of money that goes towards funding, Bigfoot research, but there's a lot of money going to fund climate change. So, like I say, the more evidence, or I would say mostly fake evidence that they can put out, the more likely they are to get money. So again, you cannot trust people who stand to and the left believes this too. They just only point it out when they perceive that it's the right that benefits. Um, you can't trust people who benefit financially from this kind of stuff. You just can't. Like I don't understand why people have to. I mean, it's obvious too. The left, just the only way they can win is by lying and manipulating and cheating and having a massive double standard. So that's kind of the reason why. Um, but anyway, like I say, the main point being is that people who make these terrible predictions that are wrong by miles should stand to lose something. The only way you can have a just society, and a society that actually improves and doesn't become a corrupt cesspit like we're becoming in Canada, is if people benefit from making good predictions, from doing the right thing, and lose out and are punished in some way by doing the wrong thing and by making bad predictions, because then it just makes people more likely to do the right thing and the good thing down the road. So anyway, if you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got linked in the description. Again, I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And last couple things, as always, check out my Twitter if you haven't already. Again, I just got Twitter, so follow me on there, and follow me on BitChute if you haven't already too. So everything's in the description, so you can find it all there. Please check me out.